Hello, I'm Dave, and this, thank you, is Logan, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at the pretty village of Leigh in Dorset. And it's one of those village names that's pronounced a little bit differently to as you would expect if you were reading it, as it were. Anyway, it's located about 5 miles south of Sherborne. And we're going to be walking a roughly 4-mile circular route. We'll start in the western side of the village, head north, then back through the eastern side of the village before continuing eastwards to get very close to the site of an old earthworks known as the castle. Then we'll go along a couple of old drove tracks, past the site of an ancient Miz Maze before returning to the village. And I expect we'll see a few interesting things along the way. Now I'm filming on the 1st of June. The sun's out, plenty of blue sky. Should be perfect conditions for walking. Do come along with us. Well, as I said, we'll start off with a quick wander through the village on the western side, and we'll start off with the church, which is just beside me here. And it's the Church of St Andrews. Now most of it dates from the 15th century, and it consists of a nave, chancel, a west tower and a south porch. And after a big restoration in 1854, the north aisle was added. There was a further restoration in 1889, and I think it's got 6 bells. Originally it was a chapel to the church at Yetminster, I think, but it became the parish church here in 1847. Now I was reading that in the churchyard there's a base of a 14th century preaching cross. Now I'm not 100% sure. This might be it, or it might not be. We'll have a quick peep inside. Gosh, there's some quite impressive carvings on the side of the pews there. There's the tower and the sallies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bells, yeah. And I'm not sure if that's an electric organ. I'm not an expert on organs, I'm afraid. Just in front of me here is the font, which I believe is from the 13th century. And if that's correct, then it might suggest that there was an earlier church here. Just moving towards the chancel. There's the pulpit, wooden on the left-hand side. And then a quite magnificent stained glass window above the altar. And then there's some lovely decorative windows either side as well. A beautiful little church. Well, we'll continue heading westwards out of the village. We'll see the sort of eastern end of the village later on in the walk. Now this white building in front of me here is quite interesting, called Carpenters Arms. But there's no record of it being a pub on any of the maps. And indeed the only reference I could find about it being a pub was on the Lost Pubs Project website. And that stated that it was a pub way back in 1891. I also came across an old YouTube video of the final of a regional ITV television show called Interpub 86, in which the Carpenters Arms Leigh were runners-up. So I've no idea when the actual pub closed. Indeed, I can't even find a photo of it, but it's still got the old remnants of where the sign used to be outside. Oh, what a sweet thatched cottage through there, Brookside. And just opposite it, there's a sort of a stone building called Fudge's, and we need to look out for a footpath that goes along the side of it. Oh yes, there we go, through there. So this little footpath that's taken us sort of northwards out of the village, you can see we've just come through a little field of buttercups and just crossing a small stream, which I think is a tributary of the River Wriggle, Of course, we've met the Wriggle in the past. That joins the River Yeo, which in turn joins the River Parrot, I think, and then eventually flows out to sea at in the Bristol Channel. You know, one thing that I've really noticed on some of these recent spring walks that I've done, it's been such a good year for buttercups. I can't remember seeing so many before. Well, this is as far north as we go on the walk, I think. I mean, the footpath is not well worn. Just behind me here, you can just about see a footpath sign carrying on. But from this point, I now start heading eastwards along a track. Now, in my research, it did say that in the winter, it can become a stream. It looks a little bit overgrown, so wish me luck. Well, it's not too bad so far. You'll notice that I'm sending Logan ahead as an advance party, but the water's only a few inches deep at the moment. I'm guessing it wouldn't be a good route to do during the winter months. Well, fortunately, the footpath goes slightly to the right of that sort of watery track, as it were. So we've got a little bit of a dry section to do now. Well, that was a challenging section of the walk. I see on the map it shows as Church Lane track, but well, it was passable, but I say I wouldn't be wanting to do it during the winter months. Okay, well, we're coming back into Leigh. We'll have a look at a few things around the cross area, and then we'll continue heading eastwards and back out into the countryside. Now, this is a fascinating village cross. Now, there's different sources giving me different dates for when it originates. The shaft is possibly from the 13th century, 14th century, or even 15th century, and the base may be either 13th or 14th century. The bit on top is certainly younger, from the 19th century, and it moved to this location when the new parish was created in the mid-19th century. Now, there are various carvings on the side. One figure is possibly St. George the Dragon, or possibly even St. Michael and a dragon. That's on the eastern side. And the figure on the south side is possibly St. Christopher carrying Christ. I can't actually make out what's on the north side, and as far as I can see, there's nothing on the west side. A lovely cross though. And then the building opposite the cross is called School Cottage. I believe it was the original school, built in 1861. Indeed, I did come across a photograph of a postcard dated 1911 on the internet. A lovely cottage there, the Cross House, which is just opposite School Cottage. And there are some quite beautiful houses in this village. Look at this rose bank, and roses climbing up on the wall there. Oh wow, look at this. Cromwell cottage, beautiful, with thatch. Looks like there's a date of, can't quite read it, is that 1628 above the door? Oh, these beautiful houses just keep on coming. What's this? Denbury House with the laurel outside, and then just a little bit further along some pink roses and red roses. A lovely little window with wooden shutters. Beautiful. Now this is a fascinating house. It's called Wesley House. Now, I've just been speaking to a lovely couple that own it, and they tell me that it was indeed a chapel built in the 1860s, used up until, well, as recently as the 1970s. But interestingly enough, if you look on a very old map from the 1900s, there was a Methodist chapel, but on the other side of the road in a field. But that's not there anymore, certainly no sign of it. Well, what a quite enchanting place Leigh is. And we've still got a little bit more of it to see right towards the end of the walk. But from here, we're going to continue eastwards to a place called Lower Totnell. Just an update on the route. The footpath goes through Corton Farm. You go through the sort of entrance to it and then look out for a little sign there by the wall. Easy to miss. In fact, I missed it completely. Just a chap kindly spotted it out to me, which is great. Well, we just enjoyed a lovely meander across a quite gorgeous meadow past, I think it was called Lower Totnell Farm. So before we get back into Leigh, we're now going to start heading southeast along an old drove. I think it's called Morgan's Drove. We've just come to the end of Morgan's Drove, which, well, to be honest, was a bit of a mud fest. If you're going to do this walk even in the summer, make sure you got a decent pair of walking boots. So we've now joined up with another drover's route that hopefully will be a little bit drier. Well, just as I'm making my way down this old drover's track, it's called Long Bridge Drove. Just on the northern side, I can just see through the foliage there what looks like a lake on the northern side. It doesn't show on a 1958 map, so I'm guessing it's fairly recent. And this is just looking to the south. Now, peeking through on the southern side, I can just about make out through the vegetation there what remains of, well, it shows on an old map as a castle, and indeed it shows on a current Ordnance Survey map as the castle, and it's an oval shaped earthwork covering about 9 acres, and there's a ditch and bank around it. Experts aren't actually sure if it was a castle There's no record of one actually being there, I believe. It's comparatively level and low lying, so it may well be just more likely to be a livestock enclosure to me, but it's on private land, so you can't really explore. Now, the lovely stream there, which I'm sure would make for a great dog dip, but the water just looks a bit cloudy. I mean, I'm sure it is fresh, but I'm not going to risk Logan drinking it. We'll see if we can find a better one later on. Another little update on the route. That's Long Bridge Drove that we've been coming along. We're now going to change direction again, heading northwest along another old drove track, Bolter's Drove. Now, somewhere out there in that field is something called Gudgeon's Banks, although I can't actually see anything. It's supposedly a bank rising about 4.5 foot high, and there's a ditch which is on the western side. And according to the map, the bank extends for something like 200 yards, and it's got medieval origins, although the experts aren't sure as to what its purpose was. But it's on private land, so we can't go out there and investigate. So if I vaguely tell you it's out there somewhere, we're just about to start our homeward leg, and look, buttercups, hundreds and thousands of buttercups. Well, we're not far from Leigh and our car, but there is something to, well, talk about, if not see, just before we finish the walk. Now, either in this field or the one next to it, I'm not 100% sure, is all that's left of a Miz Maze. Basically, it was a hexagon-shaped bank which was surrounded with what was possibly a circular labyrinth, and the area covered about 1/8 of an acre. And the maze would have been made from banks of earth about 1 foot wide and 6 inches high. And the custom was for local lads to repair or rebuild it every 7 years. It was originally common land, but when the area was enclosed in the 1800s, the landowner just let it fade away, and the banks just got trodden in and worn away by cattle. Now, the experts aren't entirely sure what it was originally used for. Maybe originally for religious celebrations. I mean, it could have origins back to the 13th century, and then later years, perhaps more recreational. Now, our friend Sir Frederick Treves, in his 1906 book Highways and Byways in Dorset, mentioned Leigh and the Miz Maze. So forgive me if I read a little bit from his book. The village of Leigh, not far distant from the Melburys, is famous for its Miz Maze. This maze is one of those which were common in this part of England some centuries ago, and which are, or were, represented in Dorset by the mazes at Pimperne, Leigh and Troytown. Now, the maze appears to have consisted of low banks and trenches in an intricate figure, which the youths of the village, accompanied no doubt by the maidens, were wont to thread at certain seasons of the year. The amusement must have been of a primitive type, only to be appreciated by a people who could dance all day around a maypole. The maze at Leigh is on high ground in an open field. Of the winding passages, no trace now survives. Nothing indeed is left of the low bank and ditch with which the place of entertainment was surrounded. I've said it before and I said it again. He's got a wonderful way with words. As I say, I believe that everything's been ploughed over now, so even if I can't show you which field it is, even if I did know, that there was nothing to see as far as I'm aware. Well, I've just bumped into one of my regular viewers, Susan, and her dog. I think that's the 5th video walk in a row that's happened where I've met one of my viewers. It was lovely meeting you, Susan. And of course, she's now the proud owner of a limited edition Dave's Countryside Walks badge. Well, we're just coming back into Leigh, and in front of me here, a house called Bridge Farm. Now, according to a 1903 map, there was once a pub here called the King's Arms. Sadly, no pub in the village today, but there is a little store, so let's see if we can get some light refreshments there. Well, folks, here we are at the village store and post office, testing out their scones, clotted cream and jam, and a cup of coffee. We hope you enjoyed our walk today. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. We had a super walk today, a little muddy in places, but good fun. So until we meet again, thanks for watching, and cheerio. Right, good boy. Right, now it's jam first, cream on top, right? Now, I was warned in the shop about you. We might get a visit from you. Eh? You're going to have a little nibble. I say. Well, what do you reckon? A bit of cream? You are tame. Oh, that's sweet.